We are live. All right, we know.
Let's go.
Welcome to CEO Zone's webinar. Today, your AI execution playbook. And we're going to figure out why 70% of the CEO sponsored AI projects fail. And for those of you that are CEO Zones members, you're the 30% that we can't let you fail. We're here to support you. So welcome to CEO Zone's webinar on AI, the execution playbook. We're joined today with Arturo. Arturo is the CEO of Lakeside. He's a tech enthusiast. He has a knack for causing people to get big ideas and then letting them go figure out how to make it. And then making them reality. He, outside of the office, you might see his videos on occasion, even his LinkedIn posts from the golf course, from fishing, playing with the latest tech gadgets. He's a fun guy, a visionary. He's worked alongside global teams with powerhouses like IBM, SunGard AS. He's worked with the giants like AWS. And he's even consulted to the Saudi Arabian country, the government there. And today we are a pleasure to have you here with us, Arturo. Bill is going to stop babbling. I've hatcheted your bio, but that is what every video does. And our YouTube channel, for those of you that are interested, went over 220,000 views. And babbling Bill didn't scare him away in the first minute. So let's not let this go any longer. Hello, Arturo.
How are you doing on this fine day, my friend?
I am doing really well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I'll tell you, we're excited about this. And number one, thank you to you, Bill, and of course all the community at CEO Zones for giving us an opportunity to help out here and talk a little bit about, well, really, we'll talk about the problem, but more importantly, we're here to discuss solutions and how you cannot be part of that 70%. And interestingly enough, a recent MIT study just came out and it's suggesting it's upwards of 95% of these projects are failing within the first 12 months, which is bananas. And it all comes from easily solvable things. And we're going to touch upon those today.
All right. So I guess everybody's dying to know, where do you live? What do you do? How do you spend your time? Well, we wait a couple of latecomers to get here.
No, let's do it. Well, I have the pleasure of residing right on Tampa Bay. I'm in Clearwater, Florida. I live right on the water. It's just a lovely area. Live here most of the year. Most summers, I live and work out of my home in Spain, in Salamanca. Stunning area. If you're into delicious food, that's a good place to go. And then most winters, I don't know if it's snowbird. I think I'm more of a spring bird. We leave from we go from Florida down to Panama City, Panama. We hang out down there. As Bill mentioned, I'm rather into fishing. So if you haven't been down to Panama, apart from great food, just lovely weather, awesome people, the most world-class freshwater and saltwater fishing on planet Earth. Spend a lot of time there, and really in my private time outside of my labor, I am an ordained minister. I'll be going full time in a few years, and just had my first baby, 6-month-old little Arturo Del Rio Jr. We're hoping maybe we get it right on the third try. We missed the other two, so maybe round 3 will be a little better. And I'm fortunate enough. My wife is home. She gets to do the hard work around here, taking care of the baby and managing me. But, I've been doing AI for a while. In fact, we've been at AI since before it was cool. My first AI company, we started developing that stuff way back in like 2015. So, I don't know that I think one of the reasons that we have 100% retention and deployment success rate, it's not that I think, my team or any of us are these super uber geniuses. We've just been working at this longer than most people have even been thinking about it. And between me, my business partner, Rudy, I think we're going on would be our 5th AI company, right? So we've been at this for a little bit successfully in the highest, largest places in the world, from public sector to enterprise accounts, brands that you all know. And we just really wanted to share some, my goodness, some pretty basic stuff that is a game changer in this world. CEOs today are under tremendous pressure, I think more than any before, Bill. As I'm sure you know, this year or last year, 30% more CEOs fired than the prior year, which was a record-breaking year for CEO firings. A few years ago, we were told, hey, go figure out some AI stuff. 2 years ago was, well, what's the plan? A year ago is, have you started executing? And you know where everybody's at today. Where's that return on investment, guys? What happened here? So, we're in a landscape where we can either become truly unbelievably competitive and have an opportunity to really take over or continue to be the leader in your market, or somebody who's thinking a little bit more intelligently can get ahead of you very quickly with the right deployment of AI. So it really, we're at an impasse right now. You're either ahead or behind, and unfortunately, those who are behind may not catch up. So I hope that today's information is of value to everybody, and that keeps this organization and the members ahead of the pack.
Okay. So our audience is CEOs. They're not the techies, the engineers, but what might you have that would help them know, just like you do any kind of transformation? How does the CEO know you're ready for a transformation? Do you have tips on how to help a CEO decide, yeah, my organization needs this and they can absorb it?
Man, we sure do. In fact, listen, we're going to go through the playbook today, and we'll send this over as well. But part of the value that we're looking to deliver here is two reports that'll be on the house. One is an AI market readiness report. What this is going to do is go deeply, and it'll be described here. When you submit later, you'll get your playbook as well as that. But this is going to help you identify the clear areas and opportunities to deploy AI within your organization, and of most importance, the feasibility to deploy and the type of ROI you should expect and when. Right. So that's one of the two components. The other component that we want to provide everybody on this call is a competitive edge report of equal, if not potentially even more value. This is going to take a look across your direct and indirect competitors, identify the moves they're making, their pricing strategies, what they're doing, what they're not doing well and why, and then identify market opportunity gaps that your organization is not capitalizing on. Some of these may very well involve the deployment of AI, sometimes not. It's also going to quantify that market opportunity for you, the feasibility to deploy it. And, one of the things we'll provide apart from that, if you do want to schedule time with us, we're going to provide more of a particular roadmap to you based on those reports we'll deliver. Again, if you want to take that and go execute on your own or go work with another organization, you're more than welcome to. But you'll have a proven blueprint for successful deployment, which at the end of the day is the biggest gap we're seeing right now in the market.
Okay. So we're about 9 minutes after the hour. I would assume those that are going to attend have joined us. So maybe we should jump in the deep end.
Well, let's do it. And, I don't know how to use this StreamYard thing, so I can't tell how many people are here or not. But let's jump into it. So everybody, at the end of the day, we're hopping into. I know everyone here can read, right? So afterwards, just we'll have you submit, your name, your company website, and within a couple of days, we'll get you over those two reports as well as the full execution playbook. But I want to touch upon some of the core gaps that everybody is dealing with, right? We just average this out at 85%, but the data is suggesting that anywhere between 70 and upwards of 95% of these CEO-sponsored pilots are failing. And why is that, right? A lot of this is stemming from our knowledge gap as CEOs, right? Traditionally, we're used to being able to rely on the CIO and CTO for projects. And I think we've all kind of assumed that the CTO and CIOs of this world are up on AI. Well, the truth of the matter is, there's a monstrous gap in education. The traditional approach, that people kind of think about is why this is failing. People are trying to deploy AI the same way they would deploy an ERP, a CRM system. pick a tech stack and force it down. Well, this methodology literally proves the level of misunderstanding about AI and how it functions that most of these C-level executives work. The alternative is really clear. We need to identify, instead of just saying, hey, let's apply AI to make things more efficient. And that's kind of how people have thought about it. Oh, let's put AI in marketing. It'll help us grow. Well, that's way too general. It's not controllable. We haven't identified a specific problem at its core, defined clear metrics, and figured out what are those specific things we are looking to attack in a measurable yet controllable way that is impactful to the organization. So, let's first understand what is AI for and not, and what's the minimum viable education we need to understand. AI is not magic. AI is not plug and play. That's another big gap. Or we're just going to set this up, turn it on, and tomorrow it's going to be magic. And there's going to be some magical ROI without proper implementation and measurement up front. AI is meant for pattern recognition and prediction at scale. As an example, churn prediction. In fact, years ago with my first AI company, people, with the exception of some of the bigs, always thought we were crazy. We would tell people we could predict churn. Well, if you have data, I can absolutely predict churn. Why? Because there's patterns that are recognizable in that data. The other thing, automation of cognitive tasks, right, that requires some type of judgment. Things like actuarial work, right? Or as a simple example, summarizing events down to the specific action items necessary for you, the CEO, to know what's going on and make a decision, allowing this to score it, right? Another one that's a really good one here is lead scoring in real time based on signals and behaviors, right? And thinking about AI as a replacement is not always the solution. AI should generally, not always, but generally be thought as an enhancement tool. How do I get one admin to do the work of 3 to 5? Right. So is that about replacing the admin? No, it's about taking that, amplifying their capabilities so that they can focus on the big rocks of their day-to-day behaviors instead of repetitive actions that simply create a bottleneck in your organization. So when do we apply AI and when do we not? If this is incredibly complex strategic decision making, right, that requires real nuance, some human understanding, AI might be able to help gather the data. It might be able to put it in a readable way, but ultimately there's going to be need for human capital to make those ultimate determinations. Processes that don't have a lot of data. If you're trying to create something brand new, as an example, I want to compare and create presentations based on past wins in this type of scenario with this type of client. If you have no data, no documentation on those past wins, unfortunately, we're guessing, we're not doing something. And then, things that aren't recurring, right? Ultimately, if it's not repeatable, it's probably not something that AI is going to create a good ROI on. But when does it make sense, right? Repetitive cognitive tasks, right? Think about spreadsheets, outputs like that. Data-rich processes. Again, is there a lot of data about customer service? Can we identify areas and patterns that are creating bottlenecks in those workflows and processes? Customer touch points that need intelligent personalization. And actually, I know Bill knows a lot about this. You can know down to basically the color socks someone's wearing before you talk to them and communicate with them about things that are genuinely important in real time today using AI versus the traditional methodology of deep research or complete lack of personalization, which we know today doesn't bear fruit. So these are a couple areas of when to and when not to apply AI. So let's break this down to the specifics. The biggest failure is always a lack of understanding of a clear problem, a clear outcome that is, again, manageable enough that it's measurable, but impactful. So instead of saying, hey, let's make our customer service more efficient, which is kind of how I've seen this go in most places where we come in to clean up, frankly, this is very different. Be specific. Okay, today it takes 7 hours to respond, but we have a 92% satisfaction rate in our ticketing system. Well, let's get real specific. How do we get this from 7 hours to 3.5 and maintain that outcome, right? Again, hyper specific. So for marketing, again, hey, let's sprinkle AI like it's salt or something right on top of our marketing. It's going to make it great. No, how do we generate 50% more qualified leads through AI-driven account-based marketing campaigns, right? Well, again, what can we do with that AI? We'll talk about use cases, but how do we identify real-world in-market signals? And I'm not talking about intent data, right? Bill knows my feelings on that, and my mom said to never say something, if it wasn't going to be nice. So I'll keep that to myself. But ultimately, imagine a world now where we can identify, let's say you're a cloud company, and we know that there's some developers asking infrastructure related problem questions on Reddit or Quora. And there was a job posting, right, for a cloud ops person. And then we found a 10K report that talked about the need for application improvement or performance improvement and reduction in operational costs. Sounds like there might be an in-market cloud deal, right? Well, that's how we have to think. So here's a couple of those sample use cases. So again, the simple process we always suggest, right? Don't be general, be specific. Let's get a full map of those workflows. Let's identify the patterns and the bottlenecks that are creating these gaps. And most importantly, this is where we've seen everybody miss. There is no clear, cut and dry quantification, right, of what the current costs are. What is the process? What is the time gap? What is the opportunities we're missing? Let's identify those day one, and then we can start identifying whether we can or should deploy AI. Again, sometimes not everything requires the bazooka. Sometimes BI is fine, right? Sometimes we want machine learning. Sometimes we want something agentic, right? There's different flavors for different use cases. And again, it doesn't always mean it has to be AI. So, the basics here, I think we've gone over this. I beat it up a little bit, and you guys can all read through this. And again, we'll be running those AI reports for you, as well as when we get on the phone, we can talk about a specific roadmap. But the key here is we cannot rely on traditional thinking. We cannot expect that the CIO and CTO are going to make the best decision, right? They may not understand this either. They may be thinking traditional, pick that ERP, push it down. They also may not want to take some shortcuts. They might want to control the entire process, which then leads to a much more costly and lengthy implementation, where there could be a third-party tool, an LLM already built, or something that can speed the delivery from months down to weeks. And we've walked in, Bill, to some of these, they're going on 18 months without seeing ROIs. And why was it? Well, the CEO told, listen to the CIO and CTO, and they said, no, we're going to build the whole thing in-house. It's going to be fine. It was very generalized. And here we are working on models when others in weeks are seeing ROI. So let's talk about some basic use cases. And again, there's endless possibilities with AI. But again, let's be very specific. These are a couple that we've seen in our deployments where we have seen a 50% reduction in response time to tickets and maintain that 92% customer satisfaction. In fact, in some instances, we've actually been able to improve customer sat. Why? Because the human capital can focus on the thing that matters most, the customer, not processes and tickets and digging up old data. All that, again, repeatable cognitive tasks handled by AI. And of course, this has produced a 3x ROI within 12 months. Account-based marketing with AI. This is really cool, right? So this allows us to identify those real-world in-market signals. Again, similar to what I talked about with that cloud company. Once we've identified the in-market signals, the tech can go find the decision makers in the buying committee, research them personally, and then communicate with them in multiple channels directly, including things like gifts or even handwritten letters, right, as part of the account-based marketing process. And what we've seen over time here is usually about a 40% lift in opportunity quantity, a 5x improvement in lead quality, and then 25 to roughly 30% shorter sales cycles. Again, we're finding the right people at the right time, and then we're messaging them personally in multiple channels, down to being able to put an ad just on Bill's phone, as an example. So here's a couple other ways that we've seen. So, well, Arturo, this all sounds great. How the heck do I figure out these problems in a way that's effective and manageable? I've already gone to some ginormous consultancy firms. I've spent $1 million on a really nifty PowerPoint that did nothing for me. Well, let's think about this another way. We did, I don't actually know if I'm allowed to say this. Okay. So with a global pharmaceutical company, we figured out one of the problems. They were continually trying to force down technology. And what was happening, you've all seen this. They created this culture where everybody just innately pushed back. There wasn't, buy-in at the individual contributor level. And ultimately the projects slowed down to a crawl or simply failed. Well, we flipped this on its head. Now what do? We actually take the personnel and we give them some high-level webinar or training on AI, on the tools, how it works, and how to create these automations. Then we ran a citizen developer competition where all of these people in these different departments were given the opportunity after the first week of training on how to use AI, when to use it. Again, things like compliance, things that are very important. We'll touch on that momentarily. And then we asked them to identify those repetitive tasks that were slowing their productivity down, right? I'll give you an example with a sales group. And again, this is not my opinion. On average, sales reps spend, listen to this, less than 34% of their time on revenue generating activities. I'll repeat that. Sales reps spend less than 34% of their time on average on revenue generating activities. So what happened? You go in, that sales rep now sees that they're repeatedly sending the same sort of follow-up emails. They're going and annotating their CRM. It's taking them multiple steps to create a proposal and get it out the door. Everything I just described can be fully automated with AI. And now what does the rep have to do? The rep has to validate that the solution was accurate and review the email and click send versus sitting down and scrubbing it and personalizing the whole thing, right? And this is just one example. Well, now at the end of that couple weeks, we asked that they show these projects. Now, number one, you're already picking up on this. Those individuals can't wait to participate because now they're the hero of the story. These individual contributors see themselves as valued. And this is the truth. At my level or at your level as the CEO, I'm guessing you're not sitting on the shoulder of an admin to figure out all their tasks every day, right? Well, how would you know the things that are repetitive that keep Alice, focused in the mud instead of moving rocks? Well, this is a great way to gain that. The other thing too that we've seen across the board, again, we'll talk about it later, but we also own an accredited AI training institute. And one of the things we've seen is that these individuals are so fearful coming into things about AI because they're scared about being replaced. After they're enabled this way, they see themselves as valuable assets, not only in this organization, but for their career. So you get this adoption that you wouldn't see otherwise. Well, at the end of this couple weeks, they present their findings, the little agents they built, what it's doing and how it helps. And now we have literally delivered your solutions. Your own staff has done it for you. You didn't have to spend $1 million to get it. And even more, you have an excited team that cannot wait to be AI enabled in the workforce of the future. Again, this is one of the examples, and we can talk through other ways to do it. But we've seen amazing things here, and one of the things actually, which is kind of interesting, one of the awards we've seen given is actually more AI training, which was kind of funny. You want to talk about an ROI. But ultimately, these are the reasons why a lot of these projects fail. And these are all things that can be solved. So now let's get into the actual, technicals a little bit. And team, we're going to pause in a moment for questions. I do apologize. We got started a little bit late, so I'm just kind of running through this quickly. But almost all of these gaps come from lack of forethought. I've had people tell me, the team's already got some chat GPTs, right? Well, tell that to your compliance guy or your CISO, that you have a bunch of people in the wild, wild west on the public web putting your IP in there, not only to train ChatGPT, but to give it to your competitor for free. It's happening right now in your organization, I assure you. In fact, we got a call from a large ITAD provider with his pants on fire because he found out that almost all of his executive team, middle management, and VPs all have been using ChatGPT and a couple other things willy-nilly with critical IP. So this is another thing that, again, we're not necessarily talking about this here in depth today, but it is one of the other major gaps that people aren't thinking about. So why have we been able to achieve such a success rate? Again, maybe not forever, but to date, 100% customer retention and successful deployments. We understand the way these technologies work better than others, right? Simply stated. As everybody here, I'm sure, has done this, where you're messing with ChatGPT or Claude or one of these technologies, and you're asking it sequential questions. And Bill, I'm sure you've seen this, where at some point the answers just get worse and worse and worse. Well, what's the reason behind that? Well, it's pretty simple. They have the context is what you and me would think about a short-term memory, Bill. So you told it, hey, I want to do this task. Well, 16 columns down, in fact, usually by the third one down, it has a limited ability to retain that information. So there's essentially no feedback loop that tells it, hey, remember why we were talking about here? And that's why it degrades. Well, the magic number is roughly around 40% context window, right? That's what allows you to have a consistent, repeatable quality output that is scalable for the enterprise, right? And again, this is for solutions across the board. Right now, this is one of the biggest gaps in understanding, even when people do select the right tools. They don't know how to configure them in such a fashion that allows these tools to retain the proper amount of knowledge in the context to deliver the outcomes and responses that are consistent and valid, right? Where it's not hallucinating. And I'm sure you've heard the term hallucination. So with this type of an approach, what are we generally seeing? Well, we're generally seeing the ability to deliver these products and processes with a measurable ROI in under 6 months. In fact, we're often gaining and seeing not only the deployment happen in 4 to 8 weeks, but an ROI starting to be realized within 90 days, right? This approach, looking at this backwards from the traditional methodology, delivers results, and it does so consistently from the bottom up, right? And we just have to change and reframe the nature of our thinking. So, what are the types of ROIs that we've been seeing across the board, right? And this is based on the annual. The majority of our business is, really in the mid-market to enterprise space. But as you can see, the ROIs and timelines to achieve them are truly substantial for, frankly, very limited and low investments, right, to get things going in a pilot. So again, this is just meant to show you what we're seeing across the different industries. We're working with everything from manufacturing to healthcare, insurance, technology companies, really just about everything across the board. Again, the technology doesn't really care what you do. As long as we're thoughtful about how we deploy it, it can be a real asset to your organization versus what 95% of people are seeing, where it's really turning into a money pit for a lot of people. So we'd love to offer you again that AI readiness report showing you the areas where you can apply AI and the measurable outcomes from those. And of course, the competitive analysis or competitive edge report. What this does is identify, what's happening with your competitors, what moves they've made, pricing models, all the way down to opportunity gaps and quantifying the feasibility of actually exploiting those in the market today. So, we'll follow up. We'll send this out to everybody. There is a little form. It's not even really a form. We just need a name and a URL, and we'll be able to pull this in and get you these reports. And you'll see the type of results. I know everybody here can read, and I want to make sure we have time to chat. So, team, I apologize for such an aggressive data dump, but let me pause here and let's see what sort of questions we have. You know what it is, Bill? I speak 200 words per minute with gusts up to 550.
Yep, you and Zig Ziglar. All right. Hello again. Can I reach you, Pam? I guess you know Pamela.
Oh, Pamela, how have you been? I'll send you one of my links on LinkedIn. I'd love to have a chat with you, Pamela. It's been a while. I hope things are going well. Yep, I know exactly who you are.
Okay.
Phenomenal product.
Every webinar we do, there's a law, and then there's so many questions. Who wants to go first? Nabil, tell me, what man is a difference between an agent and an engine, Arturo? I know Nabil's wanting to ask you that. Of course, he probably already knows that.
He probably does. Well, I mean, the reality is an agent is, think of it as an individual worker, a one single task focus. Hey, go pull all the data related to X, Y, and Z for me. Okay, great. That goes and pulls the data. An engine is essentially, think of it as an army of those individual agents with a manager on top that is going to take all of that information and then apply the logic. Hey, I want you to do an entire competitive analysis for me, right? Well, for our competitive analysis report that we're going to send you, what's going to happen, number one, is these individual agents are going to go find things like, go through roughly 300 to 500 URLs about your competitor. It's going to check to see what third-party industry data related to it is. Does Gartner have something to say about this? What are the market opportunity gaps? And then it's going to filter through that upper layer where it's going to take a look at it and say, hey, let's put this all together into a clean competitive report. Then right next to it is another guy that's going to double check his math. I don't know if it's a he. I'm not sure. I haven't asked him. But it's going to check the math to revalidate it. And then right on top of it, there'll be a last, the CEO, we'll call it, that does the last look and feel and says, hey, okay, I bless it. Let's send it over to Bruce.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And I thought people could speak orally. Oh, my bad, guys. Well, Bruce, number one, at post call, what's going to happen is we're going to send out the actual document in Playbook, and inside there, what you're going to see is a link. All you have to do is click the link and request the reports, and you will be receiving the reports within a 48-hour period. And the document does a really good job of describing what those reports have in greater detail.
Bruce has a real question.
Okay. Let me see. Cultural readiness and change management. You know what, Bruce, thanks for that. That's a great question. So a lot of this stems from how you approach it, right? Think about a child, right? If you tell a child, don't touch that red button, Bruce, you and me both know what's going to happen. They're not going to touch it. They're going to sprint at it and slam it, right? So I could tell you right now, that's a big gap. But when you get buy-in, it's very different. So, one of the things that happen and are happening across the board, it's not that people don't want to deploy AI, it's that they have innate fear. So they believe that AI is coming to take their job. This is why taking the approach, and again, it doesn't have to be exactly what we're putting forth, right, with these citizen developer contests. But when an organization is investing in the individuals to AI enable them, they start getting the real understanding that, hey, they don't want AI to replace me. They want to help me help myself by deploying AI and making me better. We have seen adoption rates like nothing else. And that's why they see the investment in training. They see the investment of time. They realize that it's a priority. And then ultimately, they're rewarded for making your company better. And then on top of it, think about the psychology of an individual contributor, right? They know that it's unlikely that they're going to be with you for 30 years and retire. We all know that that's not the reality this day and age. So they also see that an organization that is investing in them is investing in their personal career future and advancement, right? So the adoption has made a huge change because, again, we're not asking, hey, you're going to take SAP, whether you like it or not, we're cramming it down your throat. No, we're saying, hey, what are the things that you hate doing because they're repetitive and they don't let you get your job done, Bruce? Why don't we show you about AI? We're going to train you, and then we're going to have you go back and identify those things that just don't let you make more sales, Arturo, that are impeding your ability to focus on, the actual numbers versus data cleanup, Mr. CFO or account director or whatever, whoever that person is. So innately, people always want to tell you about their problems. They love talking about problems. And now what you're saying is, hey, you are so important to this organization. I'm going to invest in you, and I'm going to help you solve those problems so you can focus on the work that matters to you and the organization. Again, there are other tips, Bruce, and I'd love to chat with you offline when we kind of give you your roadmap and the reports. But I'm telling you, that's probably one of the biggest gaps I've seen: forcing versus enablement and getting buy-in from day one. And it turns into this: I'm not going to be here to help my replacement. And I think that's how a lot of cultures in these companies see it, when it's forced down versus gaining buy-in in this manner. Sorry if that was way too long-winded. Bill will tell you I'm not known for brevity.
Neither of us are. At least you're always on topic. I get off topic and just keep on rolling.
Well, let's not start that. I'll be talking about fishing again in moments.
Yeah. Thursday night, that could happen. Bruce, thanks you, Arturo.
My pleasure, Bruce. Oh, and Frank, thank you very much. Frank Arena. He has seen the reports. He knows how ridiculous they are. Thank you. Appreciate that, Frank. I did see a note up here, and my apologies for my ineffectiveness knowing this. Oh, Nabil. Yeah, context management is key to successful AI. Yeah, no doubt. Even when people pick the right tools, Nabil, we consistently see failure. It's kind of like a good chef. You can give a good chef and a bad chef the same ingredients. The difference is tangible, despite them starting with the same tomatoes, right? It really is. And this is where the change in thinking and approach is really critical, in understanding AI. And again, for CEOs, if you're not educated on the basics of AI, your competitor might be. And what you don't know will cost you money.
There's Andrew.
Andrew, pleasure, sir. Yeah, we'd love to schedule some time and chat with you. We'll get you your reports. We'll hop on a call and we'll talk through it. And I will mention this for any individual here who isn't part of the CEO Zones community yet. I have to heavily suggest you do so. It's been of great benefit to us in the organization, and being able to interact in a private community with peers where we can have the kind of conversations we'd like to have when maybe we don't have time to go get out to the golf course. Additionally, the CEO Zones job board, CEOs, I mean, we know literally every CEO role in the world. And also, Bill and his team have put together a rather nice little AI advisor for CEOs as well. So, highly valued community. If you're not part of it, again, forgive my shameless plug, but it's been of quite value to us. And I would highly recommend you participate if you aren't. Mr. Alessia. Looking forward to talking.
A question for you.
What do we got?
Can you see Nabil? Says he's fighting AI battle.
Oh, I see it. My apologies, folks. I stink at this. It's my first time on this platform, directors. Okay, so the AI battle, man, it's so funny. I'm going to say this directly to any CEO on this call. Tech should not own AI initiatives. Okay, I cannot say that more aggressively. If you do that, well, I'll tell you like this: 95% of people do. Guess how many are failing? Right? This is a business decision. This is not a technology deployment. We're not picking SAP. We need to make strategic applications to drive EBITDA, period, right? This is not about techies going and having a great time in the basement, right? We need to identify results and outcomes. So what I have found, number one, Nabil, the first problem is just that, CIOs and directors and CTOs, like every other contributor, see this in a lot of ways as them losing control. This is why a lot of these projects are failing. I literally called it out. The CIO told you we had to do 100% of this internally. We can't use any third-party tools, LLMs. And here we are, 18 months and $20 million later without a dollar to show for it. Well, it's that mentality that has caused the gap. Now, you know what? I'd love to have a separate call with you on this, because this is a 30-minute to hour conversation. I have a lot of things I'd like to share with you, Nabil. But the short version of this is there is actually a very effective way to solve for that problem for the skeptics. And again, part of it speaks to the cultural approach I was describing earlier, gain and buying up front by showing them how it makes their life better, number one. But there is a couple other little hacks that I've seen very, very effectively. And part of it is not just culture, but the other one is, I hate to say it this way, FOMO. All right. I don't know if you've heard that term. If you haven't, look up FOMO. You'll love it. But, most people have a greater fear of failure than they have a want for success and greatness. That's the problem. Right? That's where it stems from. So understanding the psychological triggers for those individuals based on the individual personal gain and the organizational gain. If you can identify those two components for those individuals, and it really is based on a role, that's the thing that ultimately will help you move that needle. And again, this is a pretty deep conversation. If you're able to, after we get you those reports, I'd love to show you that. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Pamela, that there's still a skeptic, because what's hilarious is all the people who push back are literally using it. That's the best part. And we see it all the time. Oh no, we don't want this. Now, you know what the funny part is? They're usually using a public version that is sucking in your IP and literally training ChatGPT's model. So when your competitor has questions about you, it has it. It's mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing. But we come across it constantly. And again, it's one of the reasons we need a different thought process, a different approach. And again, it's not my preferred approach, but there is something to be fearful here about, right? There really is a major shift happening. If you're not prepared, you don't have an organizational process in place, you haven't thought about ethics, the workflows, who owns it, again, you're going to be behind those who do.
More questions? Let's get some value out of Arturo. He hadn't worked all afternoon in a long time.
It's been a while. And you're right. Yeah, FOMO. Yeah. I will say it is real. So the key leading success indicators, and it's thank you for asking that, Kevin. By the way, Kevin has recently joined Lakeside Growth as our CRO. Very excited and thankful to have you, Kevin. And it's because he asks questions like this. But the leading indicators of why people are succeeding, it's very simple. They didn't try to eat the whole elephant. They were very intelligent about deployment. They picked one horse with a specific start and finish, a measurable outcome, and they got to work on it. Most of the time deploying intelligently a use of third-party technology along with internal components, right? That spells delivery and ROI in weeks, period. The lag is real simple. It's almost everything we touched upon today. And it all starts with one thing, and I'm going to apologize in advance. Might annoy somebody, hurt somebody's feelings. If you're a CEO and you are not educated on what AI is, what it is not, how to use it, when to use it, it's your fault. It's that simple. Every CEO I've talked to that does not have an understanding of AI and has simply thought they could treat it like they did their ERP. Hey, Mr. CTO, it's on you. Go take care of it. Without exception, every CEO that I have talked to that doesn't understand this has missed, has spent money, is losing money, has no ROI. And what's really worse, and again, a lot of them would never admit it publicly, but in the conversations I see it, they don't know what to do, because they have such a limited understanding of what AI is, and they had such heavy reliance on the tech team that they literally are kind of stuck. They don't know how to backpedal out of it. And this is why you're seeing these, $5, 10, 20, $30 million invest or more going down the drain. So that's a big deal. And we do. And by the way, one thing I'll mention, obviously, and listen, it doesn't have to be through Lakeside Growth, right? But we do offer accredited AI trainings for C-level executives so that you can have the understanding necessary to make those strategic decisions. And by the way, one thing that's important, if you do check us out at the AI Core Institute, it will be included in the deliverables. There is a rate that you only get via CEO zones. By the way, that's true if we do deployments as well. So if you do book or do something with us there, please let us know. I mean, we have no problem charging you more. You won't hear any pushback on that, but
I would prefer they get the best price.
I would prefer, in fairness, that was one of the benefits that, again, you're only going to see through CEO zones. As Bill will tell you, we literally don't discount anything. We just don't have to. So doing this in sincerity, this is only available through them. Again, also apart from the reports, but getting together and providing you with a free roadmap. Again, whether you go deploy it yourself or with another organization, that's another thing. Usually that's a paid assessment and process. But again, as part of the benefit of being part of CEO's community here, CEO Zone's community, that's going to be included as well. All right. Well, I think we had some good questions. It's funny. This has happened the last couple times. We've done something like this, and then within 48 hours, my inbox is stuffed with all the questions no one wanted to ask publicly. And by the way, for those folks, just know there's 3 other people on this call that did the same thing, that feel the same way and have the same question, and just don't want to say it out loud either.
Fair enough.
So I think the follow-up here is simple. What we'll be doing, team, we'll be providing this walkthrough, right? This AI playbook. Inside the playbook itself, you can request your reports. If you just want to request a report, you don't want to talk to us, that's more than fine. There's no pressure at all through that. But if you do want to talk to us, have a deeper conversation, learn about these AI, solutions that we purvey, or have that custom roadmap built for your organization, again, for free, it would be our pleasure. And I genuinely hope that there's been some value here today for you all.
It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. I did not hear Arturo number 3 in the background. I was a little disappointed as a great-grandfather, but that's okay. And for those of you that maybe are new to CEO Zones, please go to ceozones.com, and you'll be able to figure out very quickly, easily, how to join our exclusive online community. In there, we go deeper into all these subjects, and I believe we have 3 more webinars in the next 5 or 6 days. So about different topics, from boardroom to communication crisis, and how do you handle that communication when you're the CEO who ends up on the evening news. Jeff will be helping us with that. We have Scott helping you with your video presence and the skill that might get you ready as a CEO for your TED Talk. And then last but not least, we have Ralph Ward, who will be doing another Boardroom Insider webinar. Also, I believe that one's on the 17th of September. So we appreciate you all coming to visit. And there will be follow-up via email, and the replays will be available to you I believe both on our website and on our YouTube channel, but I better not say that. There'll be a replay available. If you don't find it where you want it, just email me or LinkedIn message me, and we'll have a link and we'll get that right to you. So thank you all. We really appreciate it. And we did what we said we were going to do, Arturo. We did it with 1 second to spare in 50 minutes.
Man, proud of us. You have a great day. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, everybody, again for having us. Appreciate you.